It's got to clearly depend on how bad the shot
Yeah.
is, though. Because if you get fouled and knocked unconscious, and then you come back,
You're just going to get knocked out.
yeah.
If you get knocked out, that's why boxing, right?
That right, and that sudden, quick, violent rotation of the head is going to transmit a lot of rotational force, not only through the brain, but also through the brainstem, absolutely leading to possibility of a concussion. Thankfully, it didn't completely knock him out, but could absolutely result in some delays.
Big part of it is speed. Anthony Joshua has that kind of speed.
Joe Rogan reacted strongly to Jake Paul's hospitalization following the brutal Anthony Joshua knockout. During a discussion with Daniel Cormier, Rogan highlighted how devastating the punch looked in real time and reminded viewers that boxing is an extremely dangerous sport. He explained that when fighters are caught cleanly at the highest level, the consequences can be severe and long-lasting. Rogan emphasized that outcomes are never predictable and that such powerful impacts can cause permanent damage fighters carry for life.
Out cold.
He was
and
done.
He outboxed him for the rest of the round.
How? But again, in MMA, fight probably would have been over, and he
Probably.
would have took less damage.
Right, but isn't that a better...
Sports physician Brian Sutter analyzed the aftermath of the knockout with a calm, medical-focused perspective. He explained that while the fight's outcome aligned with many expectations, the real concern emerged after Jake Paul admitted he feared his jaw was broken. According to Sutter, a fractured jaw was absolutely possible, given how cleanly Anthony Joshua's right hand landed on the left side of Jake's face. However, he emphasized that a concussion was a more serious and immediate concern. Sutter noted that jaw fractures often take a back seat early on to potentially life-threatening risks involving the brain, neck, or airway. He explained that the sudden, violent rotation of Jake's head from the punch likely sent significant rotational forces through the brain and brainstem, increasing the risk of concussion. Even though Jake was not fully knocked unconscious, Sutter warned that delayed symptoms were still possible. He added that Jake's immediate shock and reaction suggested he instantly realized something serious had occurred.
Not the outcome that we all expected. After the fight, though, Jake told Ariel Helwani that he was worried that he had broke his jaw. He said multiple times he was concerned that he had a fractured jaw. And certainly looking at this knockout punch that Anthony Joshua delivers, it is absolutely a possibility that Jake does in fact have a jaw fracture. I'd honestly be more concerned about a concussion. In fact, with most jaw fractures, the more important thing initially is to look for other injuries to the head, to the neck, to the airway. The jaw fracture potentially being there or not is going to be lower on the list often than whether there's damage to the airway, damage to the head. And so very possible to have a concussion or some residual symptoms from this, as Jake Paul's head is relatively still here. We see AJ comes in with that right, and that sudden, quick, violent rotation of the head is going to transmit a lot of rotational force, not only through the brain, but also through the brainstem, absolutely leading to possibility of a concussion. Thankfully, it didn't completely knock him out, but could absolutely result in some delayed symptoms. But you can see where the punch comes in, landing square on that left side of Paul's face. Jake's reaction was pretty telling too. Right away after it, we could see him going down on the canvas here and being very shocked. It doesn't look like there's any obvious deformity to the jaw. We won't necessarily always see a deformity to the jaw. You can tell he clearly had realized that something serious had happened there and feeling the full power of AJ's right. And finally, on this last view, we can see a little bit better the exact location where the punch comes in. We'll talk about our jaw anatomy, the different areas of the bones, but your temporomandibular joint, where your jaw articulates with the rest of your skull, is sitting right around in this area, and the jaw is roughly coming down in this orientation. And so where that punch comes in from Joshua is a little bit more kind of flush right in the center of the mandible, but also up close.
Joe Rogan had predicted even before the fight that it would not end well for Jake Paul. He explained that Jake was accustomed to facing older or retired opponents, but this time he was stepping into the ring with one of the world's best heavyweights. Rogan warned that the gap in skill and power would be dangerous and completely unforgiving.
Joe Rogan experience.
What do you think about Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua?
Boy. Well, realistically, it's one of the craziest propositions of all time. You take a guy who just had a boxing match that looks like a sparring match with a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, and then you're going to fight one of the absolute scariest knockout artists in the heavyweight division. Maybe we should watch the Francis Ngannou fight. So you could see, let's watch that real quick, just so you can see what Anthony Joshua is capable if he's fighting someone that's not in his league. Okay, look, Usyk beat him, and he beat him twice, and Andy Ruiz caught him in the first fight and dropped him and stopped him.
The aftermath of Jake Paul stepping into the ring with Anthony Joshua triggered widespread reaction throughout the boxing world. While some fans praised Jake for his courage and willingness to face a dangerous opponent, many respected voices strongly rejected that narrative. One of the most vocal critics was Luke Thomas, who argued that the praise surrounding the fight was wildly exaggerated. According to Thomas, people were celebrating Jake simply for surviving rather than truly competing. He emphasized that Anthony Joshua did not fight at full intensity and appeared to deliberately hold back many of his punches. From Thomas's perspective, the bout was never a genuinely competitive boxing match, but a controlled scenario in which a top-level heavyweight exercised restraint. He stated that Jake's performance failed to demonstrate meaningful skill, technical growth, or tactical intelligence. Instead, Thomas argued that Jake looked overwhelmed for much of the fight, struggled to engage effectively, and showed little genuine intent or ability to win against an elite opponent.
Initially watched the Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight. I think I would say that my conclusions now still match most of what I said when I was watching on the initial broadcast, which is that Joshua, he did look a little rusty to me. I'm sorry, but he did. That Jake is, probably a little bit better than we suggested he might be. When I say we, I mean like the hardcore fight community, the fight fans, the people who work in the industry to a degree. Sometimes there is a suggestion that he can't do anything. And I would be like, well, that's a little much. He can do stuff. I mean, it's limited what he can do. It's very limited what he can do. But there is a little bit too much anger towards him sometimes, or just dismissiveness, maybe is a better way to put that. And I don't really co-sign on some of that. He's got some ability. He's not good. Listen to me very carefully. He's not good. But is he the caricature that he is sometimes made out to be in terms of his pure boxing skill? I think it goes a little overboard sometimes. But that isn't the reason why I wanted to make this video. What I wanted to make this video about is two things. One, after the fight was over, I got on social media and people were like hugely negative about the fight. And I did not think that the fight was good. In fact, I thought the fight was, like most Jake Paul fights, pretty bad, although him surviving kind of feeds into the story of him being perhaps a little bit better than we sometimes think, although I don't really co-sign on that. Let me make a point. The first point is, I think people are overreacting a little bit. People were suggesting when I got on social media that this was like the biggest farce they'd ever seen in their life, and that this was, how could he fight like this, and this was a disaster, and Joshua should have got him out there earlier. There is probably some evidence to suggest that I don't think Joshua was carrying him in the sense of, hey, they coordinated this ahead of time. But was Joshua really stepping on the gas? No, I don't think he was really stepping on the gas. There were times I think he clearly pulled.
Lawrence Waukee approached the situation from a different perspective, but ultimately arrived at a similarly critical conclusion. Rather than focusing solely on technique or performance, he emphasized the inherent danger of boxing itself. Waukee explained that in boxing, a single mistake can instantly end a fight, regardless of fame, hype, or preparation. From his viewpoint, Jake Paul stepping into the ring with someone like Anthony Joshua was reckless and unnecessary. He stressed that boxing is an unforgiving sport and that mismatches do not suddenly become acceptable simply because they generate attention or sell tickets. Waukee described the decision to take the fight as foolish, pointing out how easily the outcome could have been far more severe. Despite the heavy criticism, a small number of voices acknowledged Jake Paul's willingness to absorb punishment and continue. After the fight, reports confirmed that Jake was taken to the hospital and suffered a serious jaw injury. Some commentators viewed this as evidence of toughness, arguing that regardless of the overall performance, Jake showed courage by stepping into the ring with a fighter of Joshua's caliber. These reactions focused less on skill or strategy and more on resilience and durability. However, even among those offering limited praise, few were willing to endorse Jake as a legitimate professional boxer. The narrative centered on bravery rather than ability. In boxing, taking damage and continuing is respected, but it is not enough on its own. Courage without competitiveness does not redefine a fighter's standing. While Jake's injury highlighted the physical cost of the decision, it also reinforced growing concerns about whether such fights should happen at all.
I go to the hospital, I think I broke my jaw. We all know he broke his jaw. We all know we've seen the x-ray. There is a video of the X-ray that he showed us on his Instagram. So that was no AI, and it showed where his jaw had to be reconstructed and wired, right? So he can't have any hard foods for a while. And again, I think Jake Paul is going to get respect for that, because it's one thing, because we all know about Jake. I think the problem with Jake was he was bullshitting us by giving us fights that we didn't want to see, for one, and for two, wasn't giving us fights most of the time of the people that could beat him. He gave us Tommy Fury, and then Tommy Fury actually beat him, which, whatever. But he did drop Tommy Fury with a left hook, so that was an impressive thing he did against the guy. Can't say the only guy now, because AJ fought him and knocked him out. But, other than that, though, fighting Mike Tyson, Anderson Silva, which Anderson Silva showed that he is still very dangerous and very, very ready at 50 years old. You know what I mean? Like, what he did to Tyron Woodley was classic Anderson Silva. He picked his shots. You know what I mean? He moved with grace, he moved with wisdom, and he knew exactly what to do. And again, he should have went over to boxing a long time ago, but Jake beat him. So that just made Jake's, stock rise, right? In the sense of, hey, well, he beat Anderson Silva.
Adam Catterall was especially blunt in his assessment of the fight. He sharply criticized the growing influence of popularity in modern boxing and argued that Jake Paul is a clear product of that imbalance. According to Catterall, Anthony Joshua did not even throw his punches at full power, yet still inflicted serious damage, which only highlighted the enormous gap between the two fighters. He stressed that had Joshua fully committed to his shots, the outcome could have been far more severe. Catterall used this matchup to make a broader point about the direction of the sport itself. He argued that boxing is increasingly rewarding fame over merit, while fighters who spend years climbing the rankings struggle for recognition. At the same time, internet personalities are handed major opportunities they have not earned inside the ring. For Catterall, this fight symbolized everything wrong with that trend. Jake Paul's involvement was not impressive, but rather evidence of a system that prioritizes attention over sporting integrity.
Thinking, for my own credibility, I've got to knock you out, but I've got to try and knock you out where I'm not hurting you as much as what I could if I unleashed. And with the punch you said that he landed, it's not his best punch, it's his most powerful punch, right? Yep. And he's shattered his jaw in two places, right? So Anthony Joshua gets his 70 million, whatever it is. But I think he's sitting there thinking, thank God for that. Thank God. On a human level, I've come out, all right, I've sort of, not reputation, but I haven't hurt him as bad as what I could have.
There should be an awful amount of people breathing a massive sigh of relief. Anybody that put that fight together, athletic commissions, like you said.
It wasn't a fight.
No, it wasn't at all. Like you said, it was a prize
Yes.
fight. It was an event. If Anthony damages him, he's got to live with that for the rest of his life.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of stress to deal with, you know what I mean? So I'm sure he's bleeding inside of relief. The team that have put him in there, that have negotiated that for him, the authorities that put that on and commissioned it as a proper boxing match, I've no doubt.
Does that go on his... Because
yeah, it's a professional boxing.
Do you know what? If I was Anthony Joshua, I would be saying, I don't want that on my record. But for the credibility of them putting the fight on, they would have said to him, no, we've got to say this, it's been commissioned, it's going to be a proper fight. And I found it, I love my boxing, but I just find the whole thing really, really unedifying. You said about get followers. You mentioned Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury is nowhere near his level of getting like a British title fight or whatever. Nowhere near. So it's basically he's like...
Beat Jake Paul.
Well, beat Jake Paul. But so
but what I'm saying is that's 100. I stand by that, and I think Tommy would admit that. You know what I mean? To become a British champion, it's a very prestigious thing to do, and I think he would struggle to do that.
But I think when I was reading, he got 5.6 or...
Jordy offered a more nuanced yet still critical reaction to Jake Paul's fight. He acknowledged that Jake's personal story and rise through entertainment were compelling, highlighting his background, discipline, and ambition as humanly motivating. However, when analyzing the fight itself, Jordy was clear that Jake failed to deliver. He observed that Jake did not appear genuinely intent on winning. His movement was hesitant, His offense lacked commitment, and his overall presence in the ring suggested survival rather than true competition. Jordy emphasized that boxing is judged not on intentions or narratives, but on tangible actions inside the ring. While Jake's journey might inspire some, the performance offered nothing noteworthy from a sporting perspective. Ultimately, the broken jaw became symbolic, not a bravery.
For me to evaluate, because on the one hand, Jake's come a long way, so you want to give him credit for that. But on the other hand, you want to get in there with AJ, you want to talk about you're going to beat AJ up and then you fight in a certain way. It's very hard for me to kind of give the right amount of credit and criticism here, because the backstory is so inspiring, but the performance was not inspiring in some ways. I think for me now, I just want to see Jake Paul in a fucking competitive fight. And that's the problem with the direction he's been going in, is he puts on big fights, but not competitive fights. Fighting Chavez Jr., that was an easy win. Nate Diaz, an easy win. Mike Tyson, an easy win. Anthony Joshua, not competitive for the opposite reason. He's completely not expected to win, and it wasn't competitive. He stacks the chips too heavily either way, and because of that, we never actually get to find out how good Jake is. And part of that, I think, is maybe deliberate, because then we never know, and the storyline can go anywhere. And while you don't know really how good he is, there's always another dream to sell, and it's almost genius level promoting. It really is. But for his own sake, you're getting into your late 20s now, your physical prime. You're only going to ever find out how good you really are by getting in there with people who are of the level that you claim you're at the right weight class. You are not a cruiserweight. You've got a layer of, body fat on you. You can't be doing that in boxing. If you're a serious boxer, you don't get in there looking like Jake Paul looks. You look shredded. And that's why, really, he's a light heavyweight. But, fuck it. If you want to be cruiserweight, be a cruiserweight. Regardless, just fight people who are now, ranked. And let's find out where the fuck he is. Because surely, these money grab Tyson fight, the AJ fight, he's packed that bank chock full. And credit to him. Even if he has hustled people or whatever the fuck, credit to him. One of the best promoters in boxing history, actually. I really do believe that. Because even when fights seem ridiculous.
Paulie Malignaggi was among the harshest critics of Jake Paul's fight. As a former world champion, his standards for boxing are uncompromising. He dismissed about entirely, calling it unserious and uncompetitive. According to Malignaggi, Jake Paul made no real attempt to win, instead focusing on simply lasting as long as possible. He criticized Jake for repeatedly dropping to one knee and treating the fight more as a spectacle than a true contest. Malignaggi's frustration stemmed from his respect for the sport. He emphasized that boxing careers are built on sacrifice, discipline, and years of hard work. Seeing someone enter the ring under vastly different conditions and receive attention merely for surviving was, in his view, insulting to those who dedicate their lives to the
boxing fans by going out on his shield. The guy just ran for his life. I just watched Jake Paul run for his life for 5-6 rounds. Literally just run for. He was doing football jukes. You guys watched that fight? Ring was big. Yeah, I made a freaking point about that ring being big, and he used it to his advantage in terms of survival in every way he could. I mean, this guy literally never tried to win a second of the fight. He was trying to throw a home run punch every once in a while. And notice every time he got in the clinch, he just went down. He just hugged Anthony Joshua, and then would go down, and the referee would call it a slip and give him a break. And he would just kill time that way. Then he was completely angling off. He was completely blading his shoulder off completely to the point where he's so bladed off that he can't even punch. He was just trying to make himself as small of a target as possible. Now Anthony Joshua, people are going to say, why didn't Anthony Joshua catch up to him? Because Anthony Joshua never had fast feet to begin with. And Anthony Joshua, honestly, should have probably cut off the ring a little bit better. That's my one critique of Joshua. He probably could have cut off the ring a little bit better. Joshua's always never really had the best feet, but in terms of cutting off the ring, he could have at least done that. But honestly, what do you want the guy to do? I mean, this guy ran for his life in a 22 by 23 foot ring. That ring was huge. I can't believe what I just watched, guys. I'm seriously, dude. That's it. This was AJ's chance. Could have went out on his shield and his chance to say, yeah, get the respect of the boxing community. This was the one that could have got him the respect of the boxing community. This was the one. He came out with all these rap crap and doing the Hulkamania crap and all that other stuff and all that stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, is he that calm, or is he literally just setting up his own demise? I don't know. AJ came out to the ring really serious, which you expect. And then, I mean, he never fought. Jake never fought. He never fought the whole fight. And then in the end, what happened? You get stopped anyway. You took some shots anyway. His mouth was bleeding at the end of the fight.
That's all for today's video. Stay tuned for more.